Hi guys, I'm Emmy. Today, finally, I'm going to share with you guys my ayahuasca experience. It's been 8 months, and honestly, out of my expectations, it completely changed my life, and it was also the first step that got me out of depression. It took me some time to feel ready to share my experience on this very public platform. Ayahuasca is still not legal in many countries. Where I did it, it was legal, but it's not really a socially widely acceptable thing. I haven't even talked to my parents about it actually, so this video will be the first time hearing about my experience. So first, what is ayahuasca? Basically, it is a plant-based psychedelics originating from the Amazon rainforest. It is considered a medicine and has been used for centuries by indigenous people from Colombia, Peru, Ecuador, Brazil, in rituals for healing and therapeutic purposes to connect with oneself and also the nature. More and more neuroscientists and even in the Harvard studies, they begin to study ayahuasca as a treatment for depression, anxiety, addiction, and trauma. So everything I just said, I actually did not know when I booked my ayahuasca retreat. I did not plan to do it. I did not do any research or watch any YouTube videos about it. How I ended up doing it was actually pretty sudden. I had depression earlier this year. I'll talk more in details about it in a separate YouTube video. But during my depression, I didn't know why I was depressed. I know I'm very lucky and very blessed to live this life, and looking from the outside, it would seem like I have everything. I just felt so hopeless that I didn't know how I could get out of depression. So I was just in this really dark place and I couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. I was just trying anything. I went to different therapists, nothing seemed to work. So I traveled to Colombia in April. I think in some way I was hoping that if I just traveled far away, that maybe it would get me further away from depression. A friend of mine told me, "You're in Colombia, why not try ayahuasca?" And at first I'm like, no, I'm not really into these psychedelic stuffs. But I thought, there's nothing to lose. And my friend also said, you have two options. You can either go back to Hong Kong and start taking antidepressants, because we both knew I couldn't keep living like that. And another way, why not give this a try? I was in Medellin at the time, and I just saw the week after there's a spot in this ayahuasca retreat that's just 1 hour away. So I booked myself a 7 days ayahuasca retreat. I remember when I look at the website, it says you don't get what you want, you get what you need. I remember thinking like, what was that? In the end, that's what I got. There are also some preparations that it says you should do 1 week before you should stop drinking alcohol. If you're on antidepressant or anti-anxiety medication, you should stop. I was never on any. Also cut out red meat. So on the day of the ayahuasca retreat, I arrived to the meeting point where there will be a bus that takes us into the mountains. I think it's around 20 people for the retreat, and a lot of people like myself went there alone. I was surprised to know that most people, they have booked this retreat like months or even a year ago, and they have done a lot of preparation. I was like the only one who did it so spontaneously, and that's when I realized, wow, it's a big thing. It's not just a fun road trip on the weekend. And we arrived to the location, which was beautiful. I mean, it's nothing luxurious. So the first night we hadn't taken any ayahuasca yet. We were just getting to know each other. It started with a word circle. Actually, we would be doing a word circle every day where we all gathered sitting around in a circle and go one by one to share and talk about our experience, our intention, talk about why we're here. And I still remember quite a few people shared their addiction problem or their childhood traumas. When it was my turn, I said, I don't really have any trauma. I think that's the beginning of when I started to learn that traumas are not necessarily big, crazy incidents that maybe the police is involved, that someone landed in jail. There are big T's and there are also small T's. For example, as a child, if your parents suddenly yelled at you and say, I wish you were never born, that can also be a significant trauma that affects the child's life in the long run. By the time I haven't really done much self-work, so I wasn't aware of these things. We were each given a journal, start writing about our intention, and also to record our experience in each ayahuasca ceremony. I never really journaled before. I remember when I first got it, I was like,
oh my god, I need to write. Can I use my phone to type?
but phones were not really encouraged to use during the ceremonies because it can bring different trigger. And honestly, when you're on an ayahuasca trip, I don't think you would want to be getting text messages from people and then responding in a way that you might regret later. The first day was pretty chill. At night, we sit around a bonfire. We had really yummy home-cooked food. This retreat is family-run. It's not like a big resort. And they also have a live music band because music is very, very important in ayahuasca ceremonies. The way they play the music really brings out different emotions in you.
It's lonely on this path, never looking back.
In my 7 days retreat, there were 4 ceremonies, 2 night ceremonies and 2 day ceremonies. They were sort of spaced out throughout the week. And before every ceremony, they would guide us to do a meditation first. At this point, I haven't really meditated my whole life. I've always said I'm someone who cannot meditate. I cannot sit still for even 5 minutes. But since I was already here for ayahuasca, why not just embrace the whole experience? So the first night ceremony, I did the meditation and then we would go up one by one to the shaman where he would hand us the ayahuasca drink. It comes in like a cup. You would take it and honestly it did not taste great. They would also give you like a candy so you can immediately have it in your mouth to get rid of the ayahuasca taste. And they would also give you a bucket because it's very high chance that you would purge. So the setting was we're all in this outdoor area. Each of us have like a single bed type of mattress and there's also a blanket and a pillow on top. After you take the ayahuasca, you can lie down. You can also sort of walk around, but because the first one is a night ceremony, they don't really recommend you to go like so far away. It can be unsafe. There's also a bonfire in front with chairs around it. You can also choose to sit there. I remember hearing people throwing up around me. You know, normally when that happened, maybe the smell and the sound would also make you want to throw up, but because we're all on ayahuasca, like you don't really feel that effect. The whole time the live band is playing the music, and with the music going crazier and crazier, I think I start seeing more things. It's almost like I'm in another universe, like just crazy patterns. And then I start to feel really sad, like a strong sense of loss. I remember that first ceremony for hours, I was just crying so much. I thought I had no tears left. And I remember my mattress was quite close to the bed. At one point, someone from the bed stood up, and so there was an empty chair there, and I was talking to the chair. I remember thinking like,
Don't leave me, don't leave me. And the chair saying to me, trust me.
and yeah, I know I sound crazy right now, but I just want to be honest with you guys. And my stomach didn't feel well as well. I was in the toilet for quite a while. I also purged a lot, threw up a lot. At one point, I couldn't control my legs and arms, like moving in such a crazy way. And I just want to squash my face. I was so worried, like people around me would think I was crazy. The first night was painful. When I finally came out of it, I think it was after maybe 6 to 8 hours. It was already midnight, so I just fell asleep. But the next day when I woke up, I thought this could not be good for me. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. All I felt were extreme negative emotions. Not just emotions, physically, I also felt so bad. So why would I want to do it again? The next day we also had a word circle where each of us share our experiences. Some people had experience like me, like they also did not want to do it anymore, but some people saw things, they felt connected, they had some realizations. One of the quotes in ayahuasca they always say is, the only way out is through. And that really stuck with me because I had been in depression for a while and I really want to get out of it. Maybe the way to do it is just to get through this phase. And normally I'm not really a quitter. I have to admit that part of me also just felt embarrassed to quit out of all the 20 people. For example, there's one guy, I think he's like in his 60s. It was his first time out of the country in years because he was a refugee in the States and he only just got got his passport. And then his decision is to fly to Colombia to do this retreat. He was purging the whole night. You could hear he was in distress as well, but he still kept going. And I guess other people showed such strength that motivated me to give it another shot. The second ceremony is also a night ceremony. This time was a very, very different experience. I remember having these really vivid visuals with fire burning around me. I was being buried and it was my funeral. And I was saying goodbyes to all my loved ones. I literally thought I was dying, like this is it. I realized the old me had to die for me to rebirth and have a new life. And I think one of the core reasons of my depression was I didn't like who I was. No matter how many things you have in life, if you don't like who you are as a person, I couldn't depend my happiness on other people or other things. Before I would think if I achieve this, if I get this done, if I just take all that checklist, I would be happy. And I realized there are all these changes in my life and also within myself that I need to work on so that I can live a life where I am proud of myself and proud of who I am. And I just couldn't keep living the way I used to live. After that realization, I felt lighter, like I got the answer that I needed. But one last thing that I saw that night was that this girl would have a huge breakdown and the whole place would turn into chaos and it would be bright light everywhere. And it actually didn't happen that night. The night just ended peacefully.
And I thought, I must be imagining these things.
The next day, I still wrote that down in the morning in my journal. And then the day after was the third ceremony, the day ceremony. And what I saw the night before actually happened. This girl, she flew into the pool 3 times. Like we're all on our ayahuasca trip, so we're very sensitive and going through our own journey. And suddenly we just heard this huge sound of someone dropping into the pool. And the staff took her up. She was going like, something really bad happened, get off me. Some of us were shocked, some of us were crying. In the end, a few of the staff had to hold her down on a chair where the shaman had to do some work on her. And because it all happened during daytime, so the whole place was bright. Afterwards, when we had a word circle, I read out my journal of what I saw the night before that this would happen. I'm so mind blown by it, like it could just be coincidence. During the ceremony, because it's the first day one, you see so much more things. At night, everything is dark. You can hear about what other people is doing or like purging, but you're mostly just more in your own head. And with the darkness, maybe it brings out more like the dark side in you that you need to purge out. During the day, you see the beautiful nature. I was just looking at like flowers and plants and I was just so amazed by how beautiful they were. We're up high up on the mountains, but some cows just walk all the way up and start looking at us. All of us just look at each other and we start laughing. All of a sudden it also started raining. The whole thing just seemed so ridiculous that we laughed so much and we danced so much in the rain. I just felt so much love and joy and hope and connection with all the other guests on this retreat that I just haven't felt for a long time. It just made me feel like there's hope. There's light at the end of the tunnel. And I also realized that no matter what happened or who I am with in relationship, I need to find that happiness within myself first. So this day ended so well. We're all so happy. Some of us were like, yeah, like I think this is it. What more can I learn about myself?
Do we still need the 4th ceremony?
Little did we know. Maybe I was expecting ayahuasca to be like a magic pill because I got to that happy point that I would be like that for the rest of my life. And of course it's not. And on the 4th ceremony, yeah, I didn't get what I want, I got what I needed. I went into this darker place again and I didn't know why. I was like, where is that joy and love and happiness? Why were all these negative emotions again? And I realized sometimes some things happen in our childhood or in the past that we just blocked it out. I think as human beings, we're so good at compartmentalizing. For me, my takeaway from the final ceremony was I went into ayahuasca saying I don't have trauma, and actually it's because they were blocked out in my memories. Maybe it's the way I protect myself. There's still so much to work on. Like this is not the end. What I felt like I got out of ayahuasca that was so valuable, it was like equals to years of therapy. In this 1 week of ayahuasca journey, I learned so much from why I was depressed, what I need to change in my life. and to unblock some traumas from my past, and to be able to experience love and hope and joy and all these things as someone who was in depression. The life that I thought I wanted, or the person I thought I wanted to be, something was missing and was out of alignment, and I was seeking external validation from all the wrong places without finding happiness and worth in myself. I was holding on to things so tightly that were out of my control. I need to learn to let go and trust that there's a bigger plan for me. And like I said, ayahuasca is not a magic pill. That's why integration after the retreat is very important as well. You can also write down the things you want to change or little habits that you want to implement into your life. For example, I want to start meditation. Most mornings I start with a meditation around 15 to 30 minutes, and sometimes even 1 hour, something that I could never do before. But somehow after ayahuasca, I guess I realized the benefits from meditation. It's really life-changing for me. I think naturally I'm someone who is more negative. Like when I wake up, sometimes I'm back to that negative self. So for me, meditation really helps elevate my emotions and my energy. It's just a much better way to start the day. And I once heard Joe Dispenza saying, one of his students, she won't get up from her meditation until she feels in love with life. I think that's my goal from all my meditation. And I also changed the way I work and create content. After that, I actually announced on my social media that I won't edit any of my photos anymore. I used to edit very heavily, smoothen my skin, make my eyes bigger, my nose smaller, my face smaller until I can pose it. The more you edit, the more you feel like there are all these flaws that you need to fix. The more you embrace yourself without any editing, the more you actually start to love how you look. And also got myself a therapist that I see weekly, and that's a commitment that I'm making to myself. Even on days where I feel like everything is good, I still talk to her because I know that there's still trauma in my past that I need to work through. And I also made really, really good friends with the whole group from the retreat. When I went back to Hong Kong, actually I went through some more difficult times, but this group gave me so much support and really guided me onto the right path. And in the end, now I am completely out of depression. I never once took antidepressant, even when I went to a psychiatrist and she told me that was my only way to go. And so I'm proud of myself for all the changes and choices I made, and I'm so grateful for this experience as part of my journey. I'm definitely open to do it again. I felt like there's still more to learn, but if you do decide to do it, I would recommend to do it somewhere where it's legal. I think it's very important to do it with an experienced shaman who's from the Amazon with years of practice. I hope you guys like my sharing, and I'll see you again next time.